North Korea is an isolated, impoverished but highly militarized state. Its leadership has one essential goal: survival. That is why they have placed huge resources in their nuclear and missile programs as the ultimate insurance policy for the regime. Any use of its nuclear capability would be catastrophic, especially so for North Korea itself. The regime would not survive the ensuing conflict. But this awful prospect is not necessarily the immediate worry. It is the threat of the escalating war of words between Washington and Pyongyang moving from rhetoric to reality. North Korea is a country that has episodically resorted to the use of force in the past and could do so again. In March 2010 it is believed to have sunk a small South Korean warship. In the same year its artillery shelled a South Korean island, and if this current crisis does go hot, it is likely to be South Korea that is on the receiving end of the North's anger. North Korea's military has the numerical advantage over the South and is deployed close to the demilitarized zone, DMZ, marking the boundary between the two Koreas. It is frequently suggested that North Korean artillery and rocket forces, its strongest card, could level the South Korean capital Seoul within hours of the outbreak of a conflict. This is not actually so. Seoul is some 40 kilometers, 24 miles, from the DMZ and can only be reached by the North's longest-range artillery pieces. Their firing would betray their positions. Many of them are not very mobile, and this would leave them vulnerable to attack by the South. South Korea has by far the qualitative edge, and it is of course backed up by the extensive strike power of the U.S. military. Any reprise of the Korean War of the 1950s, the movement of the North's forces southwards, would create huge numbers of civilian casualties. Indeed, among them would be many Chinese students and business people resident in Seoul, but would inevitably end in a catastrophe for the North Korean regime. Such a Korean War Mark II is hopefully unlikely. But the danger is that the North might seek to use its military forces for provocations or other steps that might precipitate a more general